guys, Jane here, and today I am doing a review of Mr. Lemoncello's Library Olympics. This is book 2 in the series. The first book was Escape from Mr. Lemoncello's Library, and it's kind of hard for me to talk too much about what this is about because it is the second book in the series, but the first book was about a library that Mr. Lemoncello helped open in his hometown, and he brought some kids in to compete for a prize if they won this series of games that he'd set up in the new library to encourage children to love the library and to read. I really loved the first one. I was a little bit nervous about the second one. What I'll say as vaguely as I can is there's more children in the library playing games, and there's another prize at stake. And I really enjoyed this. The last one was a 5 out of 5, and this one was a 5 out of 5 for me too. There were things that maybe weren't quite as good as the first one. I did have a little bit of hesitance at the beginning because I was worried that it seemed like there was going to be a lot more characters this time, and there were, but it was dealt with well, so I was okay with it. I also will say that the last book I didn't guess the twist or the answer right away, whereas this one I guessed it pretty early, but I was still okay with it. This is a middle grade book. It's not meant to, baffle adults, and I loved what the twist was, so I was totally excited and fine with it. So that's what I'm going to say in the non-spoiler part of my review. Again, a 5 out of 5, great children's book. Read the first one before you read the second one because they are interconnected, but I highly recommend. All right, now I'm going to go into the spoiler section where I'm going to talk about some of the things about this book that I thought were brilliant and that I really loved. So if you don't want spoilers, don't continue. The spoilers, I will include talking about what the twist is because it was so brilliant and I was excited about it. So if you don't want to be spoiled, click off now, and I'll see you next time. All right, so for spoilers, let's start with spoiling the first book by saying that Kyle and his friends won. Kyle and a group of his friends won last time the games. And what this book is about is kids all over the world are complaining because or all over the US anyway, are complaining that they didn't get to compete. Because Mr. Lemoncello's prize was that these kids get to be part of his marketing and they get to appear in his commercials, which is a huge deal because Mr. Lemoncello is almost like Hasbro. I mean, he is a big name. And last book, Kyle and several friends, I think it was a group of 5, won the Library Olympics. And so this time, kids all over the world want to compete, and there's like a pre-Olympics, and then the winners of all those get to come and compete. And that was one of the reasons I was worried that there was going to be too many characters. But fortunately, we really didn't get too much time with many of the other characters from the different teams. There is one that was a little bit that came in and we did get to know a bit because she was kind of a bad guy, if you will. She was another Chillington, which was the kid in the first book that gave us the biggest problems. He almost won the games, but he cheated, so Mr. Lemoncello didn't let him win, and he was pretty salty about it. So I did worry with the start. It was a little slow starting because it was kind of explaining that this was going on in the process, and I was worried because I'm like, oh, we're going to have all these teams and I'm not going to get to know anybody. So I was really not loving the beginning of this book, and I was really unsure if I wanted to read because I was like, I loved the first one. But mostly it focused on Kyle and his friends again. Now, one of the little girls from the group, and I don't remember which one, moved away. So she's not in it. The one, if you've read the first book, that joined the team fairly late, not the one who's the reader, the hardcore reader. She'd been on Chillington's team and then She had a family in poverty. She really needed to win. She did win and moved away to pursue a better career and help her family get out of poverty. So this was a really fun ride. Once we got into the Olympics and once I saw that I wasn't going to have to get to know all these other groups of kids and their caregivers, and because there were a lot of characters in this book when you consider all the Olympians and their caregivers and everything, but as far as characters we really have to follow and get to know, it's mostly Kyle and a couple others. So I was really pleased with that. The little boy, I think his name is Andrew. Kid in the last book who kind of made some mistakes. He stole the one little girl's library card and kind of cheated. And so he got kicked out of the games. Well, this is kind of partially his redemption story. He has a long-lost uncle who is coming to the town and who the Olympians are staying with. And originally, Mr. Lemoncello tries to bring Andrew back in the games, but the kids kind of object, so he's like, okay, well, that's fine. But by the end, they do bring Andrew back, and I thought that was such a nice little redemption story for him. The main thing that I loved about this book, and I'm going to go ahead and start spoiling majorly now, is the twist. So at the beginning of the book, we're reminded that Mr. Lemoncello is a lot like Willy Wonka. And Willy Wonka, at least in the movies, I haven't read the books yet, I plan to, has a guy named Slughorn who is working for him to try to, disrupt everything. And in this book, we have a Slughorn. And I was so excited because it took me a minute to get there. But then I realized that was happening. And in the beginning, you do have a reference like, oh, Mr. Lemoncello is an awful lot like Willy Wonka. So you had your first hint there. And then you have this guy who owns the hotel and is supposedly Andrew's long-lost uncle who comes in, and he is obsessed with birds. He hates squirrels, supposedly, and is obsessed with birds. And he has got all these bird feeders everywhere, and people keep calling him, the bird man and stuff like that. And as stuff was going on, and, you kind of get the hint, Andrew's got this sudden relative coming in and he's working for him and all this stuff. I was like, Birdman? Wingman! Wingman! Oh my gosh, he's the Slughorn! Yeah, he was, and it was awesome. And so, in this book, kind of the big theme. In the last book, the theme was libraries are amazing and kids need libraries for a lot of reasons. And this one actually had the theme of banned books. So as we are moving on, what's happening is our Slughorn, Mr. Birdman, I don't remember what his name was, Andrew's uncle, is trying to kind of help this group that is stirred up and doesn't like how the library is being run, get control of the library. And one of those things he's trying to do is take control of the books. He doesn't like squirrels, and so he doesn't think any squirrel book should be allowed in the library or any squirrel media. So if it's got squirrels, it is not allowed because squirrels are mean to birds, and he loves birds. And so the kids are trying to figure out what is going on, and at the end, they've won the Olympics, but they're still dealing with this library group, and you find out that part of what's happening and why the board wanted control of the library is because to ban books, and that was a problem in the old library, and one of the reasons it closed down is there was missing books. And the end of this book is amazing. If you love banned books, this is an amazing book because it talks about banned books and the ideas and why banning books is a terrible, terrible idea. So this was just such a good read. I loved it. I recommend reading the first one and then reading the second one. And there's 2 more books in the series, and I cannot wait to read them. But this was just so much fun, and I love the book banning thing, and I loved the smart, funny, cute things that they did with the Slughorn character. They never do say, by the way, that the wingman thing, I just came up with that, and it's they never specifically say, yes, he's wingman, and that's why we called him the Birdman. I feel like the writer did that, and it was brilliant, because he puts all kinds of fun things in there, but I could be totally wrong about that. But that was the hint for me. I thought it was brilliant. I loved it. I loved this whole journey. Can't wait to read the rest. Hope that we continue on with not too many characters, a lot of fun, important book themes, everything like that. 2 more books in the series. I'm hoping I love them both, because this one was pretty much as good as the first one, and I have no complaints about it. All right, guys. This is Jane. My social media is down beneath. Like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.